I actually think that the risk conditions right now should remain relatively positive. I think there's a few things that we've analyzed and looked into and believe that this will support the view of emerging markets continue to do well. Dollar probably remaining on a softer tone in the coming months. Just very quickly, the first one is around the COVID-19 developments, the ease in the lockdowns in major economies that's ongoing. I think that momentum is clearly in place. I think secondly, the global coordinated policy stimulus. So there's massive amount of stimulus that's coming out from the monetary and fiscal side. I think that momentum will continue. I think the other factor is on the US election front. I think this is actually turning out to be a better scenario than people expected before, Trump versus Biden. I think this will become a focus and should actually support markets ahead. But overall, I think the most important thing is the COVID looks like it's under more control in major economies, and we do see the policy stimulus coming out and continuing from global central banks.
What do you mean by that? The election scenario is looking more positive.
So people before were thinking about, the potential policies that could come out from, let's say, the Democratic leadership, for example, from Warren and Sanders. People were obviously considering what would happen on taxes, welfare spending, whereas, people had viewed Joe Biden as a person who would be, how would you say, a little bit more conservative, a little bit more centrist, and of course would not create a lot of volatility in the global markets in terms of external policies.
I do want to understand, how does the transmission mechanism work? So with what the ECB plans to do later today, what the Fed has announced, what the BOJ has come on board with, what does that mean for emerging markets and their underlying currencies? What's your view here?
Absolutely. So I think the key thing here is that what we're seeing is a lot of effective support for pressure points. This is probably the main thing, rather than effective, strong stimulus coming through. I think that's the key thing at this point in time, is that a lot of the measures we see are to suppress risk premium, are to ensure that companies which are under pressures, whether it's high yield, whether it's related to oil sectors, energy sectors, are getting the financing that they need to actually reduce this potential negativity around risk markets, and of course on local economies, local financial markets. So I think the policy measures that are coming out from the Fed, from the ECB, even to some extent the BOJ, are doing that. And it's very clear the ammunition from, for example, the Fed is substantially more from here. By leveraging on the US Treasury, the ESF, there's a huge amount of spending, over $3 trillion of programs that can potentially come out from here. So I think that's absolutely key at this point in time, to ensure markets are stable. As the recovery comes through in these economies, I think then we will see a much more powerful effect on demand as things begin to stabilize.